everyone. Thanks for joining our live session tonight. As you know, we have Nik Bärtsch as our guest. I feel very blessed and privileged to have you, Nik, over here. And thanks for accepting our invitation. I hope that we have a fruitful talk tonight. I'm all ears. If you want to greet the audience,
That's a great pleasure. Thank you, first of all, for the invitation. I'm very happy to see you again and also to be in contact again with the whole community. This is maybe the good thing of these times, that we actually can appreciate the community all around the world now. And I'm also happy to be in this series hosted by you, because you have such great artists like Björn Mayer also last Tuesday, and I'm privileged and honored to be part of that series. Thanks a lot.
Great, likewise. Normally we think that 1 hour is very long and we have many things to talk and we will have the time left, but this is normally not the case. When we go into the talks, then time flies very quick.
Right.
So I skipped the part to introduce Nik for those who don't know him that much, and I suggest that they should go to his website, nikbärtsch.com, and if they make a simple Google on the internet, they will find plenty of information about Nik. But besides that, I'm quite sure that a good number of those who have joined us may know you already and follow your career, especially those Iranians. I'm pretty sure that they have lots of nice experiences with their musical encounters they had with you in the 2 sessions that you performed in Iran, either with your band Ronin and also on your solo performance during the Show of Hands festival. So this part we leave to the audience to, collect more knowledge. I wanted to start with some questions which is relevant to the situation nowadays.
Right.
Well, we are all now suffering actually from the same problem almost worldwide. So maybe this is one of the few cases in the past, maybe decades, that the whole planet is having a common concern. How's life over there?
Well, first of all, we have to say that in Switzerland, of course, we are in a kind of privileged situation because we are a small country and we are on a high level of the whole health system and also the whole organization, the community organization. Also our authorities are somehow close to the people, which in our case also means also close to the artists. So the general concern is not about only the most so-called most important things in society like healthcare and food, but it's about all the parts in the society, and artists, music, cinema, theater, and all of that is also very important. And people also suffer that they cannot go and not join. And this is maybe also a good point of the whole thing, that we estimate highly now then that we see that these things cannot happen. What a big value they have for the community, for our life, for being in contact together and for sharing things. When you go to a concert, you're not only listening to music, but you meet people, you share ideas, you meet new people, and you create a kind of a life value and the community value that is very important. And when this is suddenly all gone, we see how important that is for our basic feeling to be humans and to be in a society.
And I think this is something that, well, with differences perhaps in some countries about how the governments are, trying to support and help the society. But in general, the basics are quite the same. So we are all more or less quarantined in our places, so locked down. Many activities has been cancelled or stopped, or at least reduced. But it seems that we are smoothly going to jump into a new phase of post-quarantine times, which still doesn't mean that the pandemic is over, but we have to consider that life should restart at some point. But we had almost a 2-3 months period of lockdown completely in many places. Right. How much did it affect your, I mean, professional career as a musician?
Well, I think that's the point in that situation now, that we experience that all over the world in a similar way, independent of the size of the state or the system in which we live in, that it is about the basics for, I'm talking now about musicians, that we cannot share an audience. And this actually doesn't matter if this happens in the US, in Switzerland, or in Iran, or wherever. It's something, music lives from sharing it in a room, in a space together. The listener is as important as the player, and the organizer is as important as the person as at the entrance and stuff like this. So a concert is a community ritual. And now this is suddenly over. I mean, I can experience that very directly in our Monday series. So I'm also a club founder, club owner, and we play every Monday in our club, and we do that since 15 years. And from one day to the other, we couldn't share this with an audience anymore, especially with the local audience that is so important, the people that we see every week, the local community. So this was a really new situation, and luckily we already streamed these Monday series for another 2 years, almost every Monday, and we were very prepared for just continuing with this. And suddenly this streaming Monday series went all over the place. So a lot of people who are somewhere else in the world suddenly on a Monday night had nothing to do and remembered they maybe were on a travel once in Zurich, or they're at home in Zurich. And we suddenly had a big international community in these Monday streams from over 25 countries, for example, last Monday. And that's an interesting change. So we tried to react and to also transform this community spirit into a new challenge now. But I mean, I'm thinking of all these musicians all over the world who cannot do that, who have to wait, or who have to do the performance in their living room with their iPhone. And I think this new way of sharing is an important thing, to not just stop, but to start to think, how can we deliver the quality with a different media in these times?
That's correct. And somehow maybe we all have now a name tag on our head, which is very relevant to the name of one of your bands. So we all became now Lonely Warriors. So we all became a Ronin now.
Yeah, somehow, exactly. I mean, so to make it short, that also people can follow that. A Ronin finally is a independent player, independent warrior, which means you have to take responsibility. You cannot just hope that the authorities or your mother solves the problem, but you have to act yourself. You have to take responsibility and, create with that independent spirit also a lot of inspiration for other people's, especially in sharing moments with the community.
So it's quite ironic now, the name that you carry with one of your bands.
Right.
And does it mean that in the future, perhaps, because many know that you are going to play every Monday in Exile in Zurich. So it's a tradition for many years. Right. But if the society is getting back to normal life smoothly, does this experience mean that maybe in the future you're going to do this in both ways? So having the club running and then also doing the streaming live?
Exactly. That's what we already did before somehow, but we were experimenting, and the live concert was the major moment. So to have to share the community there was the major moment. And now these times we really work on a lot of details in the streaming because streaming a concert live is not just putting on a camera and showing it. It has a lot to do with details of like perspectives, sound, light. And of course, when you're in a TV studio, you have professionals all around you. But when you do it in this independent way, it's very important to develop all these details and to work on the workflow, on the way you do that with a small team. And these times give us a big chance to really week by week develop that on a level that we also can reach people who actually cannot join the concert usually because happening in Zurich, right? And so it's interesting to get the feedback, but also to be aware of the moment that you play there and you're seen somewhere else in a city in, I don't know, Argentina, where somebody's watching you and you reach the person directly with the music, but you need to do that also with a certain quality level, a certain consciousness for the direct connection. It's something else than when I stand at the club and shake the hands of the people who are coming and, you know, do the welcoming directly. So I had also to first develop a feeling what this means when I talk to a camera and how the connection actually is very direct, although it is millions or thousands of kilometers away.
Well, in the future, maybe that would be a case that you can handle it because you may do your live concerts from now on
exactly.
in both ways. So to have
exactly.
the audience present and also have your audience abroad who are
right.
not there. So
exactly.
you still have the chance to get inspired by those who are in your surrounding. But
exactly.
now, like yesterday, you played again online without any audience. How does it feel?
Well, that's what I mean. In the beginning, it was really strange, although we're all used to play in front of TV and so on. But as we know, also when you play in TV, you have a little audience. At least a few people are sitting there. So you have this live moment. And, you know, to play live and give everything for the moment of sharing with the audience has a lot to do with response and feedback and just the simple you know, spirit in the room. And when we started with the pure live streaming, this kind of energy was very different. And we needed 2-3 Mondays to sort out how we do that we actually feel seen, that we feel the audience, although the audience is not in the space. Also for creating that live spirit that a player needs. You know, when you go on stage, it's something else than when you sit in your living room. It needs more presence, it needs more connection with the audience, it needs this kind of destined live moment of playing now in this moment, give the best of your life for this moment, for the audience and together with the audience.
Despite the quality of the inspiration, how did it affect the quality of the performance? Because first of all, musicians need to practice together. This is now a bit difficult, perhaps, because of that social distancing, that instructions or protocols that we have to follow. Right. And also, that's, let's say, that's lack of connection, even between the musicians. Exactly. Did this affect the quality? Because I know that you guys are very precise in what is getting performed. Yeah. Do you see also any difference in the performance?
Yeah, first we played the show just in the empty club. So we did the streaming out of the empty club and it was kind of spooky because I was also talking to a camera that was kind of 5 meters away and I needed to sort this out. But then the next stream we did from my atelier that is in the basement and it's a nice space, but it's a bit more intimate and it's more adequate for the situation we have now. So the next one I did solo. I played alone because we really had to accept all these social distancing things. So I was just alone with the technician in the space. And this intimate moment talking to the people out there was very intense. And I learned already there a lot about how a connection can be strong by just thinking of each other and feeling each other not in the same space, but over thousands of kilometers, as we actually do it also, for example, when you're away on tour and you think of your wife at home or whatever, the connection is very strong, right? But I had to translate it into the performance. And then the next one we did in duo together with Kaspar. The duo we will also present hopefully on the show of hands next time in Tehran. So we talked about that. What is our feeling? How do we feel the people? And so it developed from time to time. And now we have a new idea that we have since 2 Mondays. So we have a virtual entrance. Like the concert starts at 9, and at 8:30, I'm online with a few people also from the Mondays community. And we just say hello, and I do the same like I usually do at the entrance in real time at the club. And this actually astonishingly helped me a lot to just feel in a way seen and welcome. And this sharing moment was there, although it was just online. And we now work on that since we expect that the club is closed for a while, to include the people more that can show, hey, I'm here, I'm listening, and just to say a simple hello. And for me, the most astonishing thing was that simple things like saying hello, hug each other, or giving your hand, when this is suddenly forbidden, you know, it gets fundamental. So we need to really think about that value also in general and try to keep this connection really alive and also to show what is important for us. And as usually, this Monday series is the best to train this.
That was quite an interesting issue because it shows that even a remote concert needs a kind of choreography. So
exactly,
it's not just starting and then ending. So
exactly.
Either the musicians or the audience who are, away, they should jump into an atmosphere which both need to help to create it.
Exactly. It's not just, we are no robots, and it's not just starting and ending. It has to do with rituals. How do we appreciate each other? How we trust each other? How we inspire each other? We need little ceremonies, little kind of rules and tools, which are also beautiful to create. And this is the idea of the local culture. How do they do it? How do they do the greetings? You know, so that's that time now helps us a lot to reflect that and to also maybe estimate this again, how important this is.
You mentioned the basement at your place that you play, and then you mentioned also that being at home with your wife and also the kids. Well, as a musician who's quite often abroad or away, despite the Monday sessions, I think in average you play perhaps sometimes up to 30-40 times per year on stage, minimum. That means, again, a minimum of plus minus 1 day before and after. So you can easily consider that over 1/3 of the year you're away.
Right.
For having gigs and concerts, at least 100-120 days.
Yeah.
Now, in the past 3 months, or perhaps in the upcoming months, the whole scenario has been changed. How much did this, change your lifestyle?
Well, I learned relatively early that traveling and going to the people to play is a kind of a warrior duty. So I see it as this, I must be ready to go every moment and to share this, because this is a chance for me. It's a purpose. Music is my source of life, despite the family and the friends. And I need to be ready for that and take it very serious, and take the moment. You know, when it's over, and when I do it, then I do it. So I had to learn very early to let go, to go and to also come back and be ready. When you have a family, you cannot go on tour and then you come home and then you have 2 or 3 days to rest. It doesn't work. You're coming home and then kids already need help in homework. They have to get up at 7 o'clock for school and all that stuff. So this taught me to be very modest, to have this kind of monkish way of living, to also learn what energies I need. I'm also getting older. I want to value and estimate also the people who invite me on travels. So the longer I do it, the more modest I became in a way to just appreciate what I have. And to just also learn to let the biggest moments go, because you never know when the next big moment is coming, maybe at home, when a kid suddenly, learned something to play on the violin, or my youngest daughter started to play football, for example, and learned a new trick, or all this stuff, to just estimate that all and be ready for that. Now, for now, I don't travel, but the everyday life didn't change in the sense of valuing these moments and working now on the music at home, composing a lot, and also staying connected with the people like you and the community out there, which is a huge duty and task and huge chance every day. So we have a lot to do on the level we work, and that's the chance, but we have to also take that duty very serious.
Just as a short break, a guy asked here during the live that, Nik, when he was from Cologne, I think,
Yeah.
When is your next album going out? Do you have any plans for a future release?
Yeah, we have many plans. We have actually all 3 projects in a phase of development. So Ronin has a big surprise soon coming up. We are working on a new repertoire there. I just today wrote an interesting new piece that shows very new aspects of the music. And we have Mobile, the acoustic trio band, which is now a trio. We have a new repertoire completely ready there, actually. We're working on that. And also solo-wise, I'm developing things constantly. So for me, a little bit, it is a phase where I'm anyway getting creative a lot inside. And the bands are working constantly. And we can now here in Switzerland, we can rehearse again, like 3-4 people can be together. So I don't know which one will be first, but I know that we will hear a lot of new repertoire in autumn, wherever we show it. So
and probably all of them on ECM again, huh?
We of course work with ECM very close, and I'm also in contact with Manfred and the label, which has of course also to react on new situations, and their situation in 50 years anniversary now over and being so present, having so many artists, is also challenging, because of course record sale and presenting has a lot to do with the people on tour. So it's difficult to say what is tomorrow, but that's what we can learn from music. You play a note and it's gone.
Another friend also asked that, how did this pandemic affect your professional career, which you almost answered. Perhaps that friend was a bit late on our live session, but maybe I can add something to his question to make it more complete. Is that, I use one of your quotes that you stated a couple of times before during some interviews or even in some of your booklets, that especially Ronin and your solo career, a big part of it is getting inspired by the urban traditions, about the lifestyle or the traditions that we have in big cities and in urban life in general. We all know that no matter how the whole thing will end up in the future, but it will definitely have an impact on our lifestyles, even especially in urban spaces.
Right.
Do you think that this will affect your way of composing in the future for you, Ronin, Mobile, or are you perhaps already got inspired by the new era that we are jumping in?
Well, when I say I'm in the tradition of urban music, I mean this in the way of urban inspiration, like cities, for example, 19th century Paris or New York in the 20s, but also other big cities like Tehran, always bring a lot of people together, and there are usually people who are very interested in exchange, and you tour there. Big cities are usually a magnet for culture. So I understood the city, especially in Switzerland, which is a small country, so a lot of people go through in the middle of Europe. I understood the city always as a hotspot of ideas. And that's what I mean when I say urban. Like, for example, Debussy in the World Exhibition in Paris had a lot of inspiration by different traditions from all over the world. But he didn't see that, for example, the gamelan ensemble, he didn't see that in Bali or so. He saw it in Paris. And at the same time, Stravinsky was hanging around in Paris. And, so it was a melting pot of ideas. That's what I mean when I say my music is developed out of an urban cultural tradition. But in its impact and maybe in the genetics of my music, there is a lot of general, maybe meditative or spiritual life energy that is not infected by an urban or a country tradition or a style tradition. It has more to do with what we are talking now about. It has to do about connection, simplicity in respect, partnership, and a way of deepening relationships. And this is difficult to talk about when you talk about aesthetics, because it has much more to do with the social energy. And that's what in my music is very important. And of course, this means that it influences me a lot with whom I play and with whom I work. Although I have a specific need how I compose my music, I always compose it also for the people with whom I play. And so to come back to your question, it will change because the people change with whom I play. Although we have a relatively stable lineup over the years in the bands, there are changes and they influence me. And these people are also changing. So the new repertoire, for example, from Mobile as a trio is infected by that social situation. And also with Ronin, it influences a lot the members who are playing this music. So this way of also being inspired in travels, meeting people like you or people in Iran, for example, influences me a lot about how I feel my music is appreciated and resonates. And that influences my music very constantly in an evolutionary sense and less in an intellectual or very local traditional sense. It is a big stream of evolution, but based on the very simple things, sharing beats, rhythms, sharing moments of meditation, but also sharing moments of high groove energy that we create the togetherness in rhythm, in a basic need of humans all over the place. So that sounds maybe a bit complex, but that's the way my music evolves very slowly.
No, but it's quite understandable. And well, we talked in the beginning about one of the terms that is in the spectrum of your work very present, which was the name Ronin, and as a lonely warrior who needs to also have interaction with the society, of course. Right. So the lonely warrior is not an abandoned warrior, but it's someone who's alone on his own feet trying to do something.
Exactly.
And you and your teammates in different formations, those who follow your music, they know that consistency in your music is very important and discipline is very important. Right. So nothing is going to happen by chance. So everything is very much predefined. That needs a huge amount of austerity. So this is something that you need to practice a lot. It's not just musically or technically. You need also other devices to bear that austerity and put it into music. What do you do despite practicing music to keep that pace?
Well, first of all, discipline means structure in a very subtle and smooth and good way, that you actually can always find your focus and that you can also reduce your energy to the things that are really important for you. And for this, you need the moment to listen to what is important for you. For example, for me, very often as an artist, the problem is I have too many ideas and too many interests. So I need these moments of meditation and rest to listen what is really important for me and for the people around me and for my music, in the sense that the music guides me more than I guide my music. So discipline means also a very focused openness for intuition. It is not an intellectual and kind of very structured discipline that is only coming from the head. It has a lot to do by opening space for your heart and your intuition for things. So what I need for this is I need to have space for meditation and for training martial arts. So you mentioned the Ronin as a lonely warrior. This means also self-dependent, means independent, means freedom, means responsibility. You have to take that yourself. Nobody saves your life, but you're not alone with your taking your responsibility and sharing things and also initiating things. You can create a good community that also helps yourself to feel valued and to create resonances. But for this, I need a structure. I need to meditate regularly. I need a very close family relationship, also being a good father and husband, for example, time with my people. And I need to train regularly my martial arts, which is Aikido, a martial art based on partnership. You find it's a Japanese martial art, but you find it all over the world. You have it also in Iran and everywhere. So the general idea in Aikido, partnership, staying connected, staying actively neutral, defensive, not attacking, but connected, is very essential for me to train that physically. Otherwise, I lose myself in all the things we do all every day, sitting on the computer, doing a lot of administration, organization, talking. And to come back to the essential things of listen to your intuition and listen to the resonating sound of your social community.
Okay, great. I want to raise a question which concerns perhaps many of the people who are involved in the music scene or actually following music seriously. A question that maybe many have no idea about the, let's say, the scale of it. When we talk about music and musicians, normally people like you, those who are performing, are in the forefront. So we compare or we analyze everything according to what we see. But as you also mentioned in the beginning of our talk, there's a big team actually running a music business. No matter if it's a live event, it's a festival, it's a production or whatever. As a musician, and during these days, there are still chances for musicians to have a small niche income from, let's say, remote performances, even getting perhaps monetary support from their fans or like crowdfunding, like donations. But many people forget that those people who are very important in this whole, let's say, chain of activities, who are now jobless, like sound technicians, like people who are working in venues, those who are doing editing, those who are doing the graphics, and I mean, it's countless. There are numerous professions, and they are now fully jobless, many of them. Have you any, let's say, oversight, or have you any observation about the situation for them? How does their life getting affected by the whole pandemic?
Well, that's a very important question because, of course, we work very closely with sound engineers, light engineers, and also the people all around in the club, for example. As a club owner, I also know that for every bottle, everything, somebody is responsible and is paid for it. So we have also a big responsibility for these people, in our company, for the club. So I know exactly what you're talking about. But on the other hand, I find it interesting also that our way of treating this is also now maybe not the worst, that we are working with the same people as long as possible, that we have a workflow that keeps these people together, that they also can, for example, now when they ask for funding or for support from the government, that they can show that they work already 10 years with us, that we bring every year so and so many concerts, you know, that this kind of connection of the community is more than just liking each other, that it means you guarantee a certain amount of work and also of experience together, and that now when the concerts are postponed or cancelled, that my people also can show how much they played with us and what is now not happening, so that they just not, you know, hanging on few bands, that they constantly change the whole time. And for example, with the Monday, we are working on now also bringing them back, financing this at least on a very small level. And we always bring sound and light technicians to the concerts that the people know, oh, okay, this band is more than a band on stage. This is a team, and they have a really detailed workflow, how they work together to guarantee this quality that finally looks very direct and simple, but it is actually based on that value of creating that together. On the other hand, you know, we cannot present as musicians to our community our music, our pieces, when we have not the support of these people who record the music on a good level, who make the surroundings looking good. For example, in live streams that are coming out of your living room, usually the light is not very good and the sound is not very good. And with our live streams, we work with professionals. So the guy at the mixing desk, the guy who does the light, the guy who does the live stream, they're professionals. They work with us now, and they have also their share of that. So I think we need to anyway value this, and you see it when a musician is doing all this stuff also, because he cannot be usually not be the same on the same professional level like playing his instrument.
There are two questions which are somehow tied together. I raised the questions together, and then you can, I mean, choose if you want to answer to both or just one of it. Mm-hmm. I don't know how much or how frequent you are, I mean, getting in connection with the social medias like Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or whatever. But you may have noticed that during the pandemic times, and perhaps also in the upcoming months, you see many musical activities on those platforms, like right. Who are playing from home, like you mentioned, or even jamming remotely, putting musical, let's say, outputs on these medias. Right. First of all, I want to ask, how was your observation? Do you think that all these activities, which from my opinion, some of them are only a way to distract yourself from the quarantine, does this add anything to the music scene in the future? Do you think that it may have some outcomes that, or some new ideas that we never thought about it? And in general, how do you see the near future?
Well, what I found very interesting after the first few days where this all started is that we now see actually how important it is that you have somebody on the light and on the camera and on the sound, because most of the recordings are in not a very good quality, although we have a lot of home recording cats also who are, for example, Björn, who was on your on this talk a week ago, he's also a very good sound engineer and he knows all about that. So some people, you know, they have their studio and do it out of the studio, but in general, we maybe also see on what the quality a good concert has to be, and on how many people it depends. And also when you read now in the media how many people are jobless despite the guy who is standing in front on stage, like you named it, this is a good thing to see that, because in times before of streaming and, you know, selling the music everywhere for nothing, and everybody just thinking music, you know, should be for free. Maybe this time shows us also that this is not so simple, that when you want to have a high quality, you need to pay people who are actually good in this. You also don't go to a bakery and just expect from everybody that the good bread is baking there. You need people who know what they do, and you go to a specialist when you want to have especially good bread. So this thing is a good phenomenon. We start to also see that homemade stuff is not always on the same quality, or usually is not on the same quality actually like good done stuff. I find that interesting because it shows us that we should estimate that in the future, that we should know that we need to pay these people also who help us to make a performance online or in the reality happening on a good level. The second, yeah,
you continue.
And the second thing is that maybe also a lot of musicians learn that. You know, many musicians actually do not estimate that. Many musicians do not estimate the guy who cleans the space in a club. Many musicians do even not value the sound engineer that they don't know when they're coming to a club. So that we are modest and respectful towards everybody, I think this could be one of the things that comes out of that crisis, that we see how careful we have to be in all these situations, and that we have to be thankful that we can play somewhere, that there is an audience, that there is somebody who opens and closes the door of the club, that there is somebody who cleans the glasses and everything, you know. I mean, for me, this was already before clear, and in Ronin, in the band, we have a clear rule that you respect everybody when you're coming to a club. You asked for the name, you welcome everybody, independent if it's the club owner or just the guy who brings the beer or whatever. But many musicians forget that. And now they can not play anymore, and, you know, nobody cares so very often. So to understand that is very valuable in general in society. I hope that helps us to go back to the basics when we restart things, or, you know, maybe do it a bit under different circumstances after a while, that we learn to think back to the basics and be respectful towards each other and know how complex it is to create a good concert. So I think the future will show that, and also on very different levels. For example, in Iran, you're also fans of football. We are all in Switzerland, in Europe especially, but football developed into, like some parts of music business, developed into a completely nuts way of spending money and paying money for crazy, you know, in crazy relations to the reality. And suddenly, from one day to the other, you see how quickly this can be all gone. And a big star suddenly is not sure anymore if he earns something in half a year. So I find that not too bad, because that's the Ronin spirit. You never know what's next. And you should estimate every situation and work with the people around you, that this situation is valuable for everybody. So I'm positive for the future that this situation helps us to understand that again, especially more in the West, you know, where in some parts everything is buyable, and you think when you have enough money, you know, we can buy all that energies, but it's not true.
Thank you. That was very, complete. As an old friend of yours, I know that there are a couple of, let's say, topics which is very much important in your lifestyle and your musical career. About two of them we almost talked about. One was the concept of being a Ronin. So, being a self-dependent warrior and a responsible warrior. We talked also about the way that you're making your music and your practices, which also has a relevance to austerity, which is also very important in your, let's say, mindset. There's also something that during these days I encountered a lot, that we all got stuck into a lifestyle which we learned how to sympathize about events. So, and sympathize, and the grief behind the sympathy is sometimes not very fruitful. But I know that for you, empathy is much more important. So having the chance, or I mean, being trained to actually walk in others' shoes, not just to sympathize or not just to consider. That pandemic perhaps made a big difference now in our mindset, because before, when it came to losing lives, they became, for many people in many cultures, just some numbers which were on a banner running under the news channel. So being alive or dying became smoothly just a routine. Or maybe in some point you only sympathized with some cultures, with some nations who were suffering from something. But now almost the whole planet is suffering from the same. So it seems that one of the outcomes of that pandemic is that we gradually are learning, without even noticing that empathy is growing in us. And that could be perhaps an outcome for the future. I wanted your point of view about that, and how perhaps empathy could help us in artistic creation.
Yeah, that's very important. There are also interesting books about the Dutch ape scientist Frans de Waal, who talks about, who made a lot of research with apes about their capacity to cooperate. Usually we're taught very often that life is a competition, evolution is a competition, but that this is 50% of the thing. The other 50% at least is cooperation, empathy, togetherness. And this is not meant in a hippie sense of we all love each other. It is meant that cooperation is one of the major drives to create interesting things. Also in this situation now where we are, competition is one point, competition of university or scientists, for example, but cooperation and sharing and helping each other and develop things together is the other part. And I don't know why, but very often we emphasize a bit more the competition than this cooperation, because cooperation is anyway everywhere. When you take a taxi, you think the guy will bring me to that point. You just think it's normal, although when it would be competition only, he could also decide to kill you and take the money if it's just better at the moment. But these simple forms of cooperation are all over the place, and we should not underestimate them. And in a situation like this, cooperation and empathy in a very serious sense, not in a hippie sense, is really interesting to observe, and also to empower, to support, and to create new inspirations in that way. So this idea of a Ronin or a independent warrior also means a peaceful warrior. It means when you're independent, you're also ready to cooperate, because you know what it means. I always wanted to learn independent by taking responsibility for your club, taking responsibility for your band, taking responsibility for your family, taking responsibility for your own development and for your community. This means really partnership on a high, serious level. You need to also invest a lot in that. And that's the idea of the peaceful warrior, so that empathy does not just mean help everybody. I tell you a simple story about that, which shows more than 1,000 words. So I have a small label, like you have a big label, but mine is a bit smaller, and we of course work with ECM as the biggest label, but I have also a small label with old Ronin records. One came out on Hermes too, like Rea, that you brought out in Iran. So this record was on my small label, came out, and then a guy in Australia ordered this CD from my shop in Switzerland. So when I saw that, I wrote him an email and said, I thank you that you ordered that CD in Australia, not buying it online, not buying it on Amazon, but buying it in my shop, where you pay for the shipment, a horrible amount. So, and then this guy wrote me back and said, I'm a doctor and urgency doctor, and it was a few years ago. when in Australia you had this flood. So he went out and wrote me in that email that every morning he takes his cup of coffee, puts in my music, and collects the power for that day. And then he knows why he does this and what is humanity. He goes out and he saves life. He collects also dead bodies. He helps and he does his job. And he said, without this music, it wouldn't work. Now, we had again in Australia these bushfires, and now we have this pandemic, and he's again out there helping people, you know, supporting people. And he does a job where I actually think I would also like to do that. I would like to help everywhere where it goes. But you cannot. You need to be there, clear, good, direct, and empathic, seriously empathic, where your skills are. So to focus on my music, to focus on the community who creates that music, and to present this music on records, in concerts, in communities like ours here, helps another person like him, helps a third person. And this chain of value, chain of inspiration, and chain of appreciation is really important. And that's what I mean with serious empathy. It's not empathy for everything. Otherwise, you step out of your door and you're lost. It means serious, focused empathy. Know what can you do good, what can you share, and where your share is really valuable for others. So that's a modest but very connected empathy for the things. And I see now in these times my job exactly there. We need to continue the Monday. We need to continue to create good quality music, not only just sharing streams, but quality, because quality inspires people for their own quality. So in these times, it's really tough to do that, because it needs a lot of money, involvement, a lot of contribution by many people to create this quality. But that's exactly our job.
This is a very important lesson that you have mentioned, because especially during these days, that many, let's say, creators, no matter if they're musicians or actors or whoever, that they are not obliged actually to be productive every day, because that responsibility or the quality is much more important. We face very often on these platforms that I mentioned, like the social media, that the people feel that they should be productive every day. Otherwise, people think that they are gone or they are done.
Yeah.
But this is not the case. And this could be a very good lesson, please, to everyone.
Exactly.
We can also have our days of rest and think and think about that creation, not just to spontaneously be there, just to show that we are there.
And this also means quality of appreciation. It actually means, for example, this doctor wrote me again in these times, and you know, I need to take my time to write back. And I told him the whole story, how often I told this story now. So I need to also give a feedback that has the quality that he offers me. And these moments need time, need really serious empathy of thinking of the other. And this quality of appreciation is as important as the quality of creation. And for example, when I remember back in Iran to our concert, I felt rarely so much quality of appreciation for what we do. And this has to do with that you actually, in the situation you are with our music, you appreciate this because it's rare, and this quality really rings a bell. And very often in different constellations, when you're on tour, you know, you have to work much more on that awareness for the quality with the audience, because they have so many offers, they have so many things, they have a concert every day, and the promoters are in competition. For example, in New York, the money, they need a lot of money, the club changes, you need to do 3 gigs one evening and all of that, and that kills the quality of appreciation. And this kind of serious empathy, a moment of meditation, moment of time, of stepping back, of thinking, this needs time and a lot of your own investment to show this appreciation to others.
That was a very important issue. Thank you for mentioning it, because I think it's a guideline that we all have to follow, and sometimes we forget it. Look, Nik, we have only almost 4 minutes time left.
Right.
I'm sure that many would love to see you play, but I'm not sure that within 4 minutes, if you could deliver us something which you are also satisfied with. But if so, we would love to have a couple of minutes of your music at the end of the show. Otherwise, we can also use these 2-3 minutes to make a conclusion.
No, I'm changing here actually to my piano. So I try to that you see also something, because I would like to appreciate also my piano, if we talk about appreciation. So that's my piano here. I hope this works. And I just play with my headphone.
Perfect. From now on, we have 3 minutes, so we can also have a last 1 minute for, say goodbye to each other.
Okay, I play you a simple thing. Can you hear this?
Go ahead.